Hi guys. So because of everything that is going on with the coronavirus and us not being able to have classes on Sunday mornings or Wednesday evenings, Miss Melissa and I got together and we thought it might be a good idea to go ahead and try and bring you a lesson over the internet so that you are still learning. And when we are able to come back to classes, we just pick up where we left off on the internet lessons and not from the lesson like a month ago, if that happens to be the case, okay? All right, so with this lesson, though, you will get full credits. You will get all your Bible bucks if you watch this lesson, you call me or video chat with me if you have an Android, because I have an Android, or because I'm not sure that iPhones and Androids can video chat with each other, but you can call me and we will go over the lesson. If you tell me about the lesson, answer some of the questions we have at the end, you can go do your Bible memory verses. I will give you full credit for doing this. You call me and I will consider that being your Bible, and I will give you a Bible buck for your Bible, okay? All right. But you do have to call me. Or find me Sunday mornings at church if I'm there, okay? And tell me about the lesson. It'd probably be best, though, if you call me, okay? All right. So we're going to just recap a little bit about what we have been talking about these last couple of rotations. And we are talking about Abraham, okay? So Abraham is married to Sarah. And because Sarah is not able to have kids with Abraham, she allows Abraham to lay with her servant Hagar. And Hagar is able to have Ishmael. Okay? Later on in life, Sarah and Abraham are praying to God to allow for Abraham to have another son. And finally, God finds favor on Sarah. So when Abraham is 100 years old is when Sarah gives birth to Isaac. And Sarah is just older than normal childbearing age when she has Isaac, okay? So when God tells Sarah that she's going to have a kid, actually he's talking to Abraham, but Sarah over here, she's eavesdropping, she laughs. And because of that laugh that she does, that's the reason why Isaac has his name, because Isaac means laughter, okay? So we have our son, Isaac, and we'll get back to Keturah in a minute, okay? So Sarah and Abraham have Isaac. So Abraham is tested. God tests him on his faith. And God says to Abraham, I want you to go and sacrifice Isaac. Instead of giving me a lamb or all of your produce, your good produce, I want you to sacrifice your only son. So Abraham takes Isaac and he goes up to the altar that they're going to build. And Isaac questions his dad on to why there's no sacrifice. And Abraham tells Isaac, God will supply the sacrifice. So Isaac is like, okay, if dad believes, then I'm going to believe. So they get up to the altar and they are building the altar. And Abraham has Isaac lay down and he gets him prepared for the sacrifice. And before Abraham is able to actually sacrifice his son, God stops him and says, I see that you are faithful. Do not sacrifice your son Isaac. He is going to be allowed to live. And then Isaac finds a ram that is caught. His horns are caught in the bush. So they use that as a sacrifice. Okay, so because of Abraham's good and faithful serving of the Lord, his family is all good and well. So he has Isaac. So Abraham and Sarah want to find a wife for Isaac. So they send Hagar, the servant, back to Beersheba, to where Sarah was from, to find him a wife. But she doesn't want just any wife. She doesn't want the Canaanites that are there. She wants her servant to find a wife that will come up to them and say, would you like some water? And or if you ask, can you serve me some water? She will say, yes, and I will serve your camels as well. And so this is what Hagar is looking for. So she goes back to Beersheba, and she is there, and she sees there's a servant girl who comes up, and she asks the servant girl for some water. And the servant girl says, yes, I will serve you some water, and I will give water to your 10 camels. And so, therefore, they say, oh, Hagar says, this is the girl that I'm supposed to bring back. So she brings her back. And her name is Rebekah. So Isaac and Rebekah get married. Isaac is 40 years old. And Rebekah, it just says that she married as a teenager. And so she was a little bit younger, quite a bit younger than Isaac when they got married. Okay, so Isaac and Rebekah, 20 years after they get married, they have the twins. Okay, their approximate date of birth is 2000 BC. So BC means before Christ. AD is Anno Domini, which is the year of the Lord in Latin. Okay, all right. So 20 years later, they have the twins. They have Esau and Jacob. And Esau is the older one. So when Esau was born, Jacob had the heel of Esau, and he was coming out like that. Okay? And then we go through the story of Isaac and Rebekah. So Esau is the hunter. He is big and burly, has lots of hair, and he's the one that goes out and hunts. Okay? Jacob is what we kind of call the homemaker. He stays home, he takes care of the sheep, he does like the cleaning and the cooking, he helps Rebekah out. And so you almost are saying that maybe Esau is Isaac's son and Jacob is Rebekah's son, just because that's kind of the way that they were separated. Isaac favors Esau, one, because he's the firstborn and he hunts. Rebekah favors Jacob because he is very sensitive like she is. He takes care of the household and does all that. Okay, so it comes time for Esau to receive his birthright. Well, a little bit before he receives his birthright, he comes in. Jacob has just made this fabulous stew. It smells great. Esau is famished, and he asks his brother for a bowl of soup. And Jacob says no. And Esau is begging for him to give him a bowl of soup. And Jacob says, I will give you the pot of stew if you give over your birthright. And so because Esau is famished, he's like, yeah, whatever. I'll do whatever. And so he gets the whole pot of stew in exchange for his birthright. So Jacob now has Esau's birthright. Now it is coming time for the inheritance. And the way you get your inheritance is the father bestows it upon you. So Isaac calls for Esau and he says, it's time for you to receive your inheritance. Go out and kill the best deer that you can. Make me what I love to eat and come back and I will give you your birthright or your inheritance. And so Esau says, okay. So he has left the tent and he's gone out to go hunting, okay? Well, Rebekah overhears this and she calls for Jacob and says, Jacob, you need to come quickly because your father's about to give away the inheritance and you need to get the inheritance. And so she makes Isaac his favorite meal and tells Jacob to go and serve it. So she tells Jacob, go out and fetch me the best lamb that you can find. And she had him put on the lamb's wool over his arms and around his neck and stuff so he can pretend to be Esau, as hairy as Esau. And so Jacob then takes this food into Isaac and he's able to serve Isaac. Now, the only way that they're able to do this is because Isaac by now has gone pretty much blind. He can't see very well at all. So he uses his touch in order to feel who it is. So even though he thinks Jacob is there because he hears his voice, he's like, this is not Esau's voice, this is Jacob's voice. And Jacob says, no, I'm just not feeling very well. You know, it's me, it's your son Esau. And so he says, okay, come here, let me touch you. And he touches him and he finds out, okay, it feels like you're Esau, so I'm going to give you the inheritance. And so, therefore, Isaac gives Jacob the inheritance. By the time Esau gets back, he's made his meal for his father. He goes to his father, and that's where Isaac and Esau realize what Rebekah and Jacob have done. So in this time, Jacob is a little bit afraid of Esau. He's afraid he's going to get mad and eventually kill him. So what Jacob does is he goes ahead and leaves. He doesn't want to be around when Esau's coming around, okay? So he leaves, and he's going to go back to Haran, okay? And Haran is where their family lives, okay? So on his way to Haran, he decides he's tired, he wants to lay down, and he gets this flat rock, and he puts it down as a pillow, and he lays his head on it and he goes to sleep. Well, he has a dream. He has this most wonderful dream. And he dreams of a ladder. And he dreams of the ladder with God on top and angels going up and down this ladder. Okay? And so this is what God says. I am the Lord. I am the God of Abraham and Isaac. I will give your family the land you are sleeping on. Your family will become big. There will be so many people. They will be like the dust of the earth. They will live in the west and the east. They will live in the north and the south. All nations will be blessed through your offspring. And God also says, I'll be with you. I will watch over you everywhere you go. I won't leave you. I will always keep promises to you. Okay? So when Jacob wakes up, he's like, wow, that is so cool. God is here. God is with me. He has never left me, and I didn't even know it. This is awesome. So therefore, I am going to stay right here. This rock, which I laid my head on, is going to be the pillar, the foundation of this place. And I am going to call this place Bethel. And that means the house of God. And so Jacob then makes the promise. If God always watches over me, he will bring me back home someday to my family. He will give me food and clothes. This stone will be God's place, and I will give to God 1/10 of everything he gives me. Okay, so Jacob is going, he's finishing his trip to Haran, and he goes to his uncle's house, his uncle Laban. Right, girls?
Yeah.
Okay. His uncle Laban's house. And so there he goes, I will work for your daughter because I want to marry your daughter. And Laban goes, okay, you work for 7 years and I will allow you to marry my daughter. And so he says, okay. So he goes and he works for 7 years for his uncle, only to realize that his uncle tricks him and he gives him Leah instead. And Jacob says, Leah is not the one I wanted to marry. It is Rachel that I wanted to marry. And his uncle goes, okay, let me tell you this. You marry Leah and work for me another 7 years and I will give you Rachel to marry. And he says, okay. So Jacob must have really loved Rachel because he worked a total of 14 years and had to still marry Leah in order to marry Rachel. So in this time, Leah has produced 4 children for him, four sons. So we have Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Okay. Well, Rachel, she's not able to have children because what has happened is that God sees how much Jacob loves Rachel and how much he does not love Leah. And so he puts favor on Leah, and that's how she's able to bear these sons. And there is no favor on Rachel right now. So Rachel then says, you know what? If I can't have sons, I'm going to give you my servant, which is Bilhah, and Bilhah will have 2 sons, and those 2 sons we will raise as our own. And so they have Dan and Naphtali. And so Dan and Naphtali are Bilhah's sons, and Bilhah is the servant of Rachel. So Leah says, you know what? If Rachel's going to give you her servant, I'm going to give you my servant too. And so Zilpah is the servant of Leah. And so Zilpah has Gad and Asher. Okay. So after that, Leah lays with Jacob again and was able to have 3 more children, but only 2 more sons. So we have Issachar, Zebulun, and then a girl named Dinah. Okay. And then after all of those children that Jacob has been able to have, Rachel is finally found favor in God's eyes, and she gives birth to Joseph and Benjamin, who end up being Jacob's favorite children because they are the sons of Rachel. Okay. So with 12 sons of Jacob, this is actually the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. So Israel is now divided into 12 tribes. So we have 2 of these sons end up being stories that we're going to talk about later, okay? So we have Judah, which is the tribe of Judah, who eventually there's David that's in the tribe of Judah, and then Jesus Christ comes out of David's offsprings and stuff. And then we have Joseph, and he has two sons that Jacob ends up helping raise, and that's Manasseh and Ephraim. And Joseph is the one that we're going to be talking about here pretty soon with the many colors, the coat of many colors. Okay, so this all leads into everything that's going to happen here in the next couple of rotations that we're going to have, and they will be coming around, okay? So with all of this, from the story of Abraham all the way to the story of Jacob and Rachel and Leah and all of that, this is all about the family of God, okay? So the story of Jacob and Esau's family is really a story about your family. God's plan used Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Esau, Jacob, Rachel, and Jacob's 12 sons to create a huge family. A family that would one day include God's son, Jesus. And if you love and obey Jesus, you are part of the family of God. You are part of God's plan. Okay? So I almost forgot. I did say we were going to go back and talk about Keturah. And Keturah is Abraham's second wife. So after Sarah dies and passes away, he marries Keturah, and Keturah produces 6 sons. But all of the stories that we're going to be talking about mainly rotate around Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau. Okay? So it's all about a story of family. Okay? So a couple of questions for you. What does BC mean? What does AD mean? I said all these answers in the video, so if you have to come back and watch the video again to get them, you can. Otherwise, we can talk about it over the phone, okay? Or at church. How old was Abraham when Abraham had Isaac? How old was Sarah when she had Isaac? Who were Isaac and Rebekah's sons? Who was Isaac's favorite son and who was Rebekah's favorite son? How many sons did Jacob have? How many children altogether did Jacob have? What are the sons' names end up meaning in Israel? That one's a little tricky, so I'm going to give you the answer to that one. They are the 12 tribes of Israel, because I'm not sure I actually stated that question very well, but you have that one, okay? All right, so in our next video, I'm going to have my girls come in, and they are going to hopefully teach you the books of the Bible and a song that goes with the 12 sons of Israel, or the 12 sons of Jacob. I would love it if you're able to remember all of the 12 sons, because if you do remember, before we left on our little coronavirus vacation here, I did tell you if you can recite all 12 sons to me, then I will give you $1 for each 12 son, or each of the sons. Okay, so if you just remember one son, you'll get $1 extra. If you remember 6, you'll get $6 extra. If you remember all 12, you will get $12 extra. Okay? All right, so we shall see y'all in our next video. I hope to hear from you soon. All right, bye.